Hi, welcome to the podcast episode, The Waiting Game. We all go through many experiences in our lives. The waiting game, which I call, is not knowing when you're going to get a call or someone's just going to show up at your door. It could be numerous things that occur with our addicts, but let's face it, in the back of our mind, the waiting game is there. It could be years. It could be never again. And that's kind of scary. This time of year, when we're getting so close to Thanksgiving and the holidays and, it's family time and, you just start thinking about the memories and all the times you sat around the table. And, of course, we're going to sit around the tables and know exactly who's not there. It's kind of the elephant in the room if you're not comfortable discussing it or saying it. I never am quiet about it. I feel like if I don't discuss it, then it's like weighs on me more. So I never have a problem to discuss it with anyone or talk about my son who's an addict. But the waiting game to me is it's so unknown that it's like living on the edge when you're coherent, when you're acknowledging, when you're kind of sitting and looking back at your past and you realize, I wonder what this year is going to be like. I wonder if he's going to show up this year. I wonder if he's going to give me a call. It's been so many years now that, you just don't know when that call is going to come. And that waiting game is such a mystery because so many things could come of that call. It's a very scary thought. We, as parents of addicts, live with it every single day. How do we not think about it every day? Well, I don't think about it every day. I don't know how that occurs. I don't think about my son every day. I do in spurts, for sure, but I think it's been so long that when it comes to a point where you just have taken over your own life again, you don't let that interfere with your daily life and your happiness. Because sitting by the phone, talking about waiting for this phone call to come is never going to help you or do anything for your life. I mean, the only thing that's left is for you to get better and move on with your life and hope and pray that your son comes back alive and that the call that comes is possibly, I'm sorry, it's been a long time, a million things they could say. But, in all honesty, think about it. It didn't end probably on a good note. I don't know about you, but it sure didn't for me. So it's going to take a lot of strength for our addicts to come back and be able to face us from the shame that they've put us through. And also, if they're even ready to get sober, if they're ready to admit that they have mental illness and they need to go on meds and they need help. Running after your addict to get them help after doing it over and over and over again is no way of living. And just because you're waiting around for a call from your addict doesn't mean you don't love your kid. Doesn't mean because you didn't travel halfway around the country or don't even know where your kid is, that it's your fault. It's not your fault. And frankly, you should never let anyone make you feel that you have not done the right thing. Now, the reason why I wanted to speak about the waiting game today is that I feel like there's a lot of anxiety for us as parents that come with the waiting game. Not knowing if the phone call is going to be from a jail, not knowing if the phone call is going to be from a hospital, not knowing if the phone call is going to be from a rehab center. There are a million things, a million scenarios that can occur. How do you prepare yourself? How are you going to react or prepare yourself for that moment? And I constantly discuss these things because it's so important. One, you need to prepare yourself emotionally. You need to figure out, okay, in each scenario, how are you going to handle it? So here's how I'm going to handle it. If it's from the hospital, then I'm going to get on the plane or wherever it is, and I am going to go see my son. So that's totally what I'm doing. If it's from jail, I'm going to hang up and act like I did not hear a thing. It is not my problem. I will not go down with the ship, and I am not going to allow myself to get involved at all. That is a whole other situation, and I'm out. Now, if it's I'm calling because I need help, which is so doubtful at this point, but if it would be, all I would do is, wow, I'm so happy you called. It's been so long. I actually have a phone number waiting for you right here. You could call this number and they'll get help. I love you. Thanks for calling. Boom. Next. Or it could be my son that just wants to call. He's starting to manipulate and see after all these years if, oh, maybe I missed him so much that I'll go back to my old ways and he'll be able to get money out of me and I'll run to get him things. Or, oh, of course, and he'll know how to make me feel bad. He doesn't have anywhere to live and he doesn't have any food and he doesn't have any friends and he doesn't have a job and he has no transportation and anywhere to go. And no, no, no. It's so easy for me to say no, right? Right. Oh, okay. Of course it is. Because I've been through that a million times. And I fell into that trap many, many times. So I'm no different than you. I've done it a million times. But I haven't experienced waiting for the phone call as much as you would think. But now, when your kid is not in your life, they're not around, they don't speak to you, they've pushed you out of their lives, that's when it becomes a more serious situation as far as your feelings of when that call is going to come and how do we live with it. Well, this is why I have therapy. This is why I always suggest to people they should be speaking with someone once a week. You're brave. You're strong. Okay, you've been doing this forever. You go to classes. You go to groups. Nothing is going to prepare you for what comes next. Nothing but you. And the only step that I believe someone can take for themselves is to get help. And help it means a lot of different things. Help is, how do I speak to my son when he calls? How do I react when, God forbid, I find out that I get a call from the hospital? What are going to be my next steps? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? A lot of times talking things out with a therapist in these scenarios really helps. Now, often you might be saying to yourself, might know where your kid is, and you might be holding back from going to get them or see them. And that's a struggle too, because people are like, well, if you know where he is, why aren't you going to get him? Oh, well, let's see. I'm not going to get him because the outcome was the exact same that I've had 3 times in a row. So what are the chances it's going to change now? It's not changing. So how do we stay on track and really focus on the fact that this waiting game should not take over our lives? Don't wait around for the call. I mean, how many years are you going to wait around? Oh, you're not going on a trip because you never know what's going to happen? I've been there. I thought about it when I'm on my way to the airport. Every single time it hits me. And what I say is, worst comes to worst, I come right back. Wherever he is, I'll go back. But it's not going to affect me right now because there's nothing I can do. Nothing. There's nothing you can do. But move on. And the thing is, what you should think about is train yourself to do more things in your life that's not going to center around you thinking all the time about your son and the call and when it's going to come. I don't think about it, and I think it's because I have so many hobbies. I have way too many hobbies and way too many little businesses I have and way too many things that I do. And I feel like in some ways I've like kind of instead of food, you kind of stuff yourself with all these things. So it keeps you super busy and you don't have a chance to really think about what you don't have, what you want, what you're waiting for. And I think those are, you have to find your own niche of what's going to help you get to that place where the waiting game is not as bad as it could be. And it's a process. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's definitely a process. I remember when he was younger and in high school, and I used to be like, oh, I mean, I used to say, oh my God, when my phone used to ring, I was definitely nervous that it was the school. He did something wrong. He'll be expelled. He'll be suspended. He got caught with drugs. He a cop. I mean, a million things I would always think about. He always stuck on the road. Tires got busted. You know, you name it, he had it. And those were more of the calls that I got. But I actually never did get the police call, thank God. But many people have. And that is another whole scenario. I remember being in lots of Al-Anon meetings, and I remember hearing the stories of people, and they'd say like, I was waiting for that call for when they would come out of jail. Why are you waiting for the call from when they come out of jail? Don't do that. You know what? You're going to run and help them because they have no money. They have no place to go. That's not your problem. They got themselves into this problem. I'm sure you've done plenty for them already. But you going, where are you taking them? Okay, and now you're going to set them up? Did it work the first time? Didn't work the second time. Maybe they'll learn this time. The other thing is that what about the fact that I remember hearing all these stories about people that the second their kids would call, I want to leave, the aftercare. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to come home. I promise. Things are going to be good. And that's the call they got. And in some ways, you're like so excited as a parent. Wow, he's really, they're back on track. Wow, they're really serious this time. And it sounds like he's really going to do the work and really going to, improve, better his life and make sure he has, things going on every day and a purpose. And he really wants to do this. And he has a lot more confidence. Well, that doesn't work either. So the phone call that we're all waiting for, which I call the waiting game, is not necessarily a great thing to begin with. Because the only good call that comes of the waiting game is the call that from your kid that basically says, hi, I haven't spoken to you in a while. I was thinking of you. I miss you. These are the things I'm doing in my life. I'm trying to, I'm in help. I've gotten help. I'm working through this. Great. That's a great call if you get that. But otherwise, just getting a call because they call you. I mean, I used to be like that. I used to get a call from him and I'd be like so excited. Oh my God. But then when I thought about what the call was, it was us going back and forth and arguing. Him manipulating me into getting him or buying him food through Uber Eats or whatnot, giving me lots of lies, and then getting angry at me because I would say one thing that he wouldn't like. I can't pretend to tell you how many times I got on the phone and said to him, this is the last time. Okay. It was never the last time. Never. And that was a big mistake. That's where the enabling comes in. But the phone call is something that is a scary, emotional thing for most parents. And even like any parent, anybody, that has a phone, obviously all these days we all have phones, that really think about things that they could get a phone call from. It could even be your kid, it's the first time they're driving and they get in an accident, God forbid. It's a million things that as parents we hope and pray we never get that call. And in some ways, as parents of addicts, we kind of hope and pray we do get a call. But the prayers and the hopes are on one particular call. And the chances of that is pretty slim, unfortunately. And that's our reality. It definitely makes me sad. And there's nothing for me to do about it. So I try to, when I do think about it for 2 seconds, I completely try to move on to the next thing. And again, when you're busy, when you're doing things, when you're working, when you're focused on other people in your life that are there and present, this call, this waiting game, it's there in the back of your mind, but it's not in the front of your mind. And that's the only way to keep it out of the front of your mind and not in your daily life. And like looking at your phone and saying, oh, when is he going to call? I've had that. I've done that. But that was more like, the first 5 years, 6 years, very beginning of the rehabs and the aftercares and those kind of things. It wasn't later on. As the years went on, they never were really the right calls. And I always look back and I realize that, there were always those ultimatums of, death or jail. And those were always those ultimatums of what that call would look like. I never wanted that. I would never allow it at that time. Unfortunately, I didn't realize then, like we have now, is, we have a lot of control, and when the call comes, and you see or you get a message, you don't have to answer the phone. You don't have to answer the phone. It's a scary thing, and then it puts you on the spot, and you got to think. That's why my therapist actually told me to prepare myself. And that's the only way I was able to do it. I prepared myself. And so when the day comes, I know exactly what I could say. But a lot of people don't have that. And a lot of people sit there and I read online or I'm listening to other people speak, and they almost have hope because when a call comes. And that's not a bad thing. But I don't hope a call comes, because that call, the chances of it being the call I want are much slimmer. And so getting a call isn't really a parent of an addict's favorite thing to wait for, or even assume what it's going to be. But what you can do, and I'll leave you with this, and something that I really, it's important to think about it, and that's why I stressed, and I felt like this was a really good, important episode, because you need to prepare yourself. And that's something you probably wouldn't think about. Like, so what? Okay, I'll answer the phone and he's going to call. And no, because you'll either have an attitude, which I've had many times before. That doesn't do anybody any good, because then they get controversial. Then you have to prepare yourself to be able to say you're strong enough to say no. Don't let them manipulate you. Okay, it's easy to say. Well, after year and all those times that he manipulated me, now he wouldn't manipulate me, but back then he did. So how are you going to answer that? How are you going to be able to be strong enough? Do you need to make sure someone's in the room with you? One of your relatives, one of the siblings, somebody there to remind you, no, like in the background? Then do it. Prepare for what you need. But be honest with yourself, because no one else is going to know what you're really feeling and how it is. I mean, I definitely have prepared myself, and it's a very personal thing. It's something we each have to be aware of, and know what we're going to say and do, and in every different scenario. But the name of the game is to prepare yourself and educate yourself on what would be next, what would work best for your family. I want to come home and really? Are you going to be able to be prepared to say to your kid, no, don't come home? Your other siblings are here. and it's not going to be good for the family? Are you strong enough to do that and say, no, don't come home? Are you going to have that image in your head that it's going to be all great because, yeah, he's telling you it's going to be fine, and that addict's going to come home and be with the whole family again, and everything's just going to go back to the way you want it to be? Well, that's not happening. It's never going to be the way it was because it's too much happened. Too many things happened. Too much time has passed. And bringing the addict back into your home and not knowing for sure that they're healthy, that they've put their life together, that they're more on track with understanding that they have an illness, and they have psychosis, or they have some kind of trauma that they have to work out, then it's never gonna work in your home. And that's why I'm so strong about preparing for the call that will come. And it's preparing yourself, it's preparing the people around you, because others might get the call too. And that is definitely something to think about. The call, just to let you know, you could be in your first year. Your kid could be first rehab, and they're coming out of rehab, and they go into aftercare, and they're at sober living. And then after 2 months, they're like, I don't need this anymore. I'm good. I'm going to come home. I promise you everything's going to be great. And oh, really? You think it's so quick after doing drugs for that long that you just snap out of it after 3 months and everything's going to be great and it's going to be fabulous? No, it's not. It's not how it works. And so what have they proven to you? But you'll be the first one, as a parent, I was too, the first one to go at that place because, oh, this is great. Yes, of course. You know what? Okay, I believe you. Let's do that. See, it's almost like you're going through these things the first time also. So you're more apt to be more easily manipulated into believing that everything has so-called worked out and the addict is no longer an addict, and they don't have any psychosis, even though they just last month they were saying that they're going to save the world, which is not uncommon. So if that's the case, then do not answer the phone, because if you're not strong enough to say no, don't do it. Don't pick up the phone. And it's hard. Never pick up the phone in the middle of the night at 3:30 in the morning. Nothing good is coming from that. Nope, don't do it. That's not when the call is coming into you, okay? That's probably more of a hospital, emergency situation, the police station. But, if your kid is calling you in the middle of the night, don't do it. That's not the call you were waiting for. So that's something to be very conscious of. And don't be impulsive. Think it out. And if you can't think it out, or you go numb, or you freeze, and all of a sudden you forget what you're going to say or how you're going to answer the phone, then don't do it. You have to feel comfortable. And that's why this is such an important thing. It's such an important detail to work on. And working on how you're going to answer the phone in all scenarios. And even if you're at the beginning and your kid's calling you and they're promising you they're not going to do it again. They're promising you they're going to come home. They're promising you they're not going to sneak out in the middle of the night. They're promising you all these things. Oh, that sounds really great. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? Now, the way you answer it, the way you put your foot down and have these rules, live by my rules, or not. And if you don't want to live by my rules, this is not the home for you. It takes a lot to say that, and I'm not going to say I was able to do it so fast. Very, very hard. But now I would be able to, easily. After many years of having all these stages that I've experienced, it's all about experience. And that also is something. Having that experience, you could look back and know what worked didn't work. And that's why I did this podcast, because I thought maybe people would listen and they'd see what's going to come ahead. What's ahead of my life? What does that journey look like? And this is part of a journey. The waiting game for every call that's going to come in. And nobody really discusses it. Nobody really talks about it. It's a lot of times the elephant in the room. Or someone will say, hey, have you heard from him? Have you heard from your kid? That's something that people often say. If they feel comfortable saying it. I don't mind. I really don't. I got to the place where it's not me. They're human. They don't mean anything by it. No one's judging me. I'm not paranoid about anything. It's sad. It's a sad scenario. But I do stress, work on what you would do in different scenarios. Be prepared. Tell your husband, tell your ex, tell your boyfriend, tell your kids. Everyone should be prepared, because it's a big thing. And answering that call, the way you answer it can change the path that you take, the path that your kid takes, and it takes a lot of strength. And a lot of times most people can't do it alone. And that's where the help comes in. Al-Anon meetings, local community meetings, parenting groups, listening to podcasts, going to therapy every week, having a coach. These are the things that help you get through this. And then until you get to a point where you're pretty much there. You know what this life is. You know what you were granted. And, whatever we say about it, it is what it is. And we just work through it. And so thanks for listening. I hope this helped, and continue to be strong.